Hey, Guru Nation! Welcome back to another episode. Not only is this a video, guys, it's a podcast, audio podcast for your listening pleasure. We have Heather Nisley. Heather, first of all, thank you for working on a holiday, President's Day. Are
Oh,
you you're
always.
you're in the site right now, right?
I am. I'm on site working today.
My PI told me the office is closed, so not to come today. Otherwise, I'd be at the site too.
We do things a little different in the South. Even our kids are in school today.
Really?
Yeah,
That's
or
amazing.
at least mine are.
I mean, in fairness to me, I didn't even realize it was a holiday until last night. So that's I wouldn't have known either. Um, but thank you, Heather, for coming on. Heather is somebody who I guess I'll let her introduce herself, but she basically reached out on one of my videos where I kind of introduced CNAs, mainly because of my nurse practitioner business partner who started out as a CNA before he became an NP. And he was telling me, "Hey, you're always talking about MAs, medical assistants, but there's CNAs also." And I was like, "Oh, I thought they were like the same thing." And then Heather reached out, commented. She said, "You know what? I was a CNA. I went the route of CRC, and now I'm working as a CRC." And we're gonna get into who she works for and how she got there. She's a junior research coordinator for Allerv Health.
Well,
So
I
shout
actually
out
just
to
got a
them.
promotion on that
Oh,
one. So they took the
okay.
junior off.
No more junior.
No more junior, just
No more
clinical
junior.
research coordinator.
Just clinical read. That's perfect. Perfect. Yeah, they take junior out. That's a great place to start, actually. But we'll get to introducing you. But guys and gals, when you get started at a site, right, especially in a 2022 environment where things are so busy, there's way more work than the average site can handle. You lose your junior status, whether it's official or unofficial, you lose your junior status ASAP, meaning a few months, if that.
Absolutely. Hmm.
See, Heather knows. So, Heather, thank you so much for coming on. I really appreciate it. We'll work our way into Allergy, but can we talk more about you right now and what your background was and how you even discovered clinical research?
Well, I've been doing CNA work basically since on and off since 2007. I worked at assisted livings, worked and then transitioned into the nursing home. For a good 8 years, I've been in the nursing home as a CNA slash ancillary coordinator. And one day was looking through ZipRecruiter and had a message from CRCA, which is Clinical Research Center of Alabama, asking me to apply for a coordinator position. So
Ah, so they found you.
they found me. Took a chance. I was like, I don't know if I'm qualified to do this, but they're asking me, so let's find out.
Do you remember what your initial gut reaction was? Because I'm just curious, because most people don't really know much about clinical research. So when you saw the company, what did you initially think?
The first thing I did was Google it. I was like, okay, what is this company about? And when I started researching it, I was like, this is perfect. This is a good next step for me in my medical background. And so I, like I said, applied. They asked for a phone interview and then a face to face. And 2 weeks later, I was getting an offer to become the newest junior research coordinator for
Wow.
CRCA. Yeah.
What so what was the interview like? Because a lot of CNAs, and matter of fact, I have two phone numbers of people we're looking to hire for my site with Hyman. One of them's a CNA. So, and we're just like your employer, we're reaching out to them. Like we found them. They didn't find us. So, what were some of the questions that they asked initially?
Well, a lot of it was, do you have you ever done any research? And my answer was no. I hadn't done any research. It's an allergy and asthma specialty group. Told them that yeah, I'm familiar with allergies and I'm familiar with asthma, but it's not something that I suffer with on a day to day basis. I'm really great at patient care. I always advocate for my patients. So, I mean, that part of it was no problem whatsoever. Already trained in vitals, already trained in med dispensing. So it was just a matter of, do you think you could do this? Yeah, I think I could do this.
Did they give you any like onboarding? So basically, within the first couple minutes, you realized, okay, these guys really want me here. So it kind of put you at ease for the interview in a way.
Absolutely. The phone interview set the tone for everything for me. When I interviewed with my boss, she was very friendly, very outgoing. So it was like sitting down with an old friend by the time I got to the face to face interview. And she tells me all the time, she says, I just kept writing, no research experience, but she's really nice. And
But
so,
everybody in the South is really nice, though.
oh, yeah, most of us are, but I wasn't raised here. She wasn't raised here,
Ah,
so
okay.
it gets interesting when you get down to those topics. So,
That's a whole nother podcast. Uh,
absolutely.
there's time for for something like that. All right, Heather. So when you first started working there, um, was there like what was day one like? Because I still remember my day one vividly, but I'm just curious, like what was your day one like?
My day one was an orientation packet, and they were resettling everybody into new positions, new areas. And she sent me this orientation packet, and it had about 12 different videos, from everything from Tuskegee to Helsinki. And that's actually how I found you. Is one of your videos is included in our orientation packet,
Ah,
which
okay.
led me down the rabbit hole to the 6-hour video on the comprehensive clinical research
I
video,
see. I
and
see.
then to the
Was it
book.
that video that's part
It,
of the welcome packet?
no, it wasn't that video,
Oh, okay.
but that led me to your book. And I drive 52 minutes back and forth to work every day to come work here. And so you were in my ear. You and Chris were in my ear.
I'm gonna tell Chris. That's the audiobook. My favorite is the audiobook.
I love the way you guys go off topic. I learned so much from you guys in the first 2 weeks of traveling back and forth that I came in and I knew what an SIV was, and I knew what an IMV was because just by listening to your book on my way to work. So
Yeah,
it
thank
gave
you.
me
Thank
a
you.
definitely gave me a good jumping stone, to get to where I need to be, where I am today. So thank you for that.
Thank you for listening and for letting me know that. Yeah, that was fun to record, and we were like, how can we make this like less dry? If we just read it, what's the benefit of someone getting this? So we just made it like we decided to make it two books, or like a book and a podcast in one, which I think worked out. Like some people don't like it, but the majority did. So thank you, Heather, for that.
I've even got my nurse practitioner listening to it, and she's been doing clinical
Ooh.
research for 5 years. So
We love NPs. We love. I think we should interview your nurse practitioner at some point because, in my opinion, nurse practitioners are extremely underrated in research. Maybe just like CNAs, actually, because even I underestimated, and underrated CNAs. The way my business partner Jaime Valles, who is an NP and was a CNA, the way he broke it down was he said, you know what, you shouldn't feel bad that you're ignoring CNAs because they typically work, like you said, in nursing homes, assisted living facilities, hospitals. They're trained for more of that kind of work as opposed to MAs who are kind of trained to work in a doctor's office. And because of my experiences mainly in doctor's offices and not in those other places, I just didn't even consider CNAs.
yeah, and we are trained to work on a long-term care basis more than anything else. But you have certain niches, like with me working in an assisted living and being med certified. You know, you've got some different, little tweaks and things on a CNA that you might not necessarily even get from an MA.
Mhm.
That aren't used to dispensing medication on a regular basis and following those guidelines needed to make sure that you're adherence to not only your state regulations but also those prescriptions and how you know detailed they can
Wow.
be.
What's the process of becoming a CNA? Can you just kind of walk us through that?
um for me it was a 6-week class, uh, and you do 4 weeks basically in in the classroom learning everything you can as far as, and that goes from CPR all the way to just feeding a patient and how to help. Dementia training is one of the big ones, and then 2 weeks in clinicals.
Mm.
And those 2 weeks you spend in a nursing home doing hand to hand care with different residents, and then you go to your site wherever you're working.
6 weeks?
So,
That's very doable. I didn't realize that. So for MA, like, is it the similar length of training for them?
I honestly don't know a whole lot about MAs.
Yeah.
When I saw your video, I sent it to one of my coworkers. She's an MA.
All right, we got to
So,
interview her next. I'm just learning from Guru Nation, like crowdsourcing info, because the reason I asked, uh, the other day somebody asked me a question. They're a foreign doctor, international medical graduate from India, and they just immigrated to the US. I can't remember where, but somewhere in the South, I believe. And they were asking me, is it worthwhile for me to pursue like a MA or a CNA degree? And I was like, yeah, I mean, it's not going to hurt you, to have some kind of clinical background, even though you are an IMG, but to have like some practical hands-on experience in the US, some kind of license, some kind of certification, so that you can then be reached out to just like you were, right?
absolutely.
But
I've
I didn't
actually got
realize it was 6 weeks only. I thought it was like 6 months or something like that.
no, not at all. And most of your nursing homes will pay for because they're so short on staffing.
Wow.
A lot of your nursing homes will pay for your CNA classes. The
Wow.
place that I ultimately got my certification from, they pay you to go through class, and then they make sure you're certified and send you to the home of your choice, basically. Uh,
Incredible. Wow.
so, yeah. And there's a lot of
That's
nursing homes that do that.
that right there is just like mind blowing. So now it changes kind of the advice I give to people, or even people without a medical degree or a medical background that immigrate from other countries, or even here in the US. Like, hey, you know what? I'm not sure what to do. I graduated with a bachelor's in art, but I really want to get into research. And so I'm gonna start telling them, look, CNA, MA, once we interview the MA to figure out how long they
Phlebotomy,
take.
anybody who has phlebotomy training,
Yeah,
that's a so much a critical part of
huge.
being a clinical research coordinator. You know, I haven't come across one study yet that doesn't have a blood draw associated with it.
I know. We have some, and like I have to beg the MAs in the office to draw blood for my patient. They're not even my employees. They're they're just the doctor's employees, but I bring them coffee and they'll do it.
Oh yeah.
Uh, so Heather, what take us through a typical day now? Like how long have you been at the site that you're working with right now, Allerv? How long have you been there, and what's a typical day like now that you're no
Uh,
longer junior?
no longer junior. Well, currently I have 7 studies going that
Seven.
I'm the primary on. Yes. Most of them are in maintenance. So I still have study visits. I average about 2 to 3 study visits a week between the
Okay.
7 studies,
Okay.
and I've got one study that's a lot of phone visits, but most of the time it's answering emails, and then I also recently took over the ancillary part of this job, which is ordering supplies. So I do a little bit of everything.
Oh yeah.
Uh, but patient visits, and then making sure the labs are sent off in the proper way, following protocol, and then just making sure my EDC's done and my E-regs caught up. And every day I check my IRBs every day and make sure there's no new consents that have come down. And just keeping up with whatever I need to do that day.
I like that setup for the site that you're the coordinator and you're in charge of like inventory, you're in charge of seeing patients, you're in charge of EDC, you're in charge of regulatory, probably a whole bunch of other stuff too. I like that because you have some sites where they streamline everything, like so they'll have like 5 people doing your role, and you said you see 2 to 3 patients a week. They'll probably be able to see 3 to 5 patients a day that way. But the
Right.
problem is each person. So there's several problems there. Number one is the CRAs. It's much easier for them to have one point of contact than to have five. another thing also is for the individual themselves. Like you're not becoming a generalist if you're in a situation where you're just streamlined. Like your task is just data entry. You completely miss out on the patient interaction, regulatory. So I think you're in a really good situation. I like companies that do that, that structure their workflow that way. Um, that's one of the ways I'm structuring my site as well, is to be able to have just a generalist coordinator for every study. And yeah, you could back up your colleagues, like if you're sick they can take over for you and vice versa. I really like that setup that you guys have at Allergy.
And we do have our backup. So every 7 of those studies, I've either started off as the backup, or I took over the study from somebody else that was leaving the company when I came in. And yeah, I still had to name another backup when I took over that position, or
Mm,
took over as the primary coordinator. And we fill it in, we help out. You never know when somebody's kid's going to get sick or COVID, God
yeah.
forbid, but
Yep.
we make sure it gets done.
How have your interactions with monitors been?
Whew, some days. There's been some interesting communications, but for the most part, I have really great monitors. As well as I do, the turnover for CRAs right now, trying to find the next better deal. You could end up with a different monitor from one IM visit to a next IMV visit, to a
Yeah.
next. And that's already occurred. I've been here since November, and
Wow.
there's one study I've had 2 different monitors on already.
Yep, yep. I think that's kind
Um,
of sign of the times. I have the first two studies I got, they're the same sponsor, same CRO, and they've changed like so many of their staff already, like multiple times. So it's like as soon as you get to know somebody, they're gone. And that's just the way it is right now. Like there's a lot of turnover in the industry, especially amongst the CRAs and the project managers. Less so with the coordinators because coordinators tend to settle into the site that they like, and there's slightly less turnover there. But yeah, with the CROs, it's been a challenge to just kind of keep up with the musical chairs of who's the next monitor.
right. Like I said, I've had really great experiences with my monitors that I deal with on a daily basis. I've heard some horror stories. Everybody has,
Yep.
but
Have
for
you
the most part,
experienced any horror stories though so
um,
far?
I had, ironically, I had one monitor that the coordinator who had it before me was not as organized as she could have been.
Yeah.
And so she already had preconceived notions when she met me. And the irony of the entire situation is I got her to a point where she was extremely happy with everything that was going on, even emailed my boss, she's such a great asset, blah, blah, blah. And then 2 days later, I get an email, effective today, I will no longer be working.
Awesome.
I was like,
Awesome.
well,
That's what
it,
happens, guys, when you make life easier for your CRAs. And she probably returning the favor because she wants you to stay there and she wants the PI to know. I've been a CRA also. She wants the PI to know, hey, this is a good situation now. Just keep it this way.
right. Yeah, and she was happy and I was happy, and then she's like, I'm gonna be done with this study. Okay, well, we'll wait to see what happens with the next time, the next one.
Wow, wow, yeah, you'll probably cross paths again. For as big as the industry is, it's small still, and the word gets around, and you'll start seeing people, familiar faces switching to CROs, but then coming for another SSV. So you've gone through every visits, the site selection, initiation,
Yep. I've done
IMV.
just about everything. Well, we've done the pre-site selection for one of the studies that I have. Just waiting on contracts on that one,
Mhm.
basically, before we start off with that. So I've done a little bit of everything in 3.5 months, and it's been a wild ride, and I've loved every second of it.
Becoming a generalist. Allervy, can you talk a little bit about what they do? This is the first I've heard of them, but it seems like a pretty cool place.
So Allergy is committed to establishing allergy and immunology as a gold standard. They're based out of Texas, and we are. just growing our sites as far as the allergy health side of it goes. But they're dedicated to asthma and allergy, and immunology, and then they want to make that the national name brand for allergy. But they're also developing a sister company, which is going to be Allergy Clinical Research. And right now we have 5 sites, actually 6. We're in the process of opening up one in Georgia right now.
Okay.
And so we have 2 sites in Alabama, a site in Tennessee, one in Utah, one in Georgia, one's fixing to open in Florida as well.
Wow. Okay.
So they're planning on growth exponentially over the next few years.
No,
We're going to
absolutely. With immunology, especially, with all the COVID, you guys do COVID studies?
No, we
No?
haven't done any COVID studies at our site yet.
Yeah. Yeah.
We keep trying to talk the boss into it, so we'll see if we can get it.
A lot of sites don't want COVID study. Like my PI told me, like I'll take studies, but don't I do not want COVID studies, just because it's so tough now to get somebody who is not vaccinated and or has never had COVID. It's like very tough to get patients like that. So they're kind of like, at least the PIs that I work with, they've been telling me, hey, let's not do COVID. So I think a lot of sites are in that same situation where they're maybe looking at other aspects of immunology and like you guys doing asthma and I imagine COPD as well.
Yes, and that was going to be my next statement. We have so many people that come in with those comorbidities that we don't
Mm.
need to risk bringing somebody who does have COVID and exposing those patients to it.
Yeah, that was another uh my other PI who told me not to also with COVID. That was his concern because he's a dermatologist, but in this town we have a lot of people with comorbidities and they thought better not to. Plus everybody's so short staffed. We can't risk an outbreak
Absolutely.
at one of our clinics and no one's going to be there to do the studies. There won't be
Yeah.
anything going on.
No coordinators, no PIs.
so so I guess as far as allergy is concerned, or your experiences there, what do you think is next for you? Like, I know you're not a junior CRC anymore. I imagine at some point you're going to be onboarding new staff,
Right.
right? So, do you think that that's probably a good fit for you and for your career trajectory?
Yes, absolutely. There's, like I said, with this company and the growth of it, there's nowhere but up to go. And I have very supportive management staff. My site manager Kendra is awesome. She wants us to follow whatever dream we have. Our
Kendra
national,
Williams, right?
yes,
I just
and
connected with her on LinkedIn.
then Chris Ingram is our clinical research national director. He's on LinkedIn as well. He's the brains when it comes to making sure that we grow smartly and don't exceed our expectations. So
I like this. I'm looking at all the staff there. So this was awesome because CNA, I mean, I didn't realize it's 6 weeks. Like that's to me my biggest takeaway was, wow, this is like a very practical career option for people that are having a hard time getting in. And like you said, Heather, you can get like if you go work for a nursing home, you can get them to pay for your training.
and pay you while you're training,
Wow.
and it's the one thing I will say about it is make sure you have a servant's heart
Hmm.
when you go this route, because you're going to get attached to these people that you're
Yeah,
taking care of. And just like in clinical research, you get attached to your patients.
of course.
I've got pediatric studies, and I'm like, oh, you don't want to hurt the
Ah,
kid. So, but
I didn't know you're doing pediatric. That's a whole nother podcast episode there. I
yeah,
mean, one of the differences between, and this is one of the things we're trying to teach our MAs that work with us is, you're accustomed to working in a high volume office. Maybe you spend 5 minutes with each patient just to do their vitals and then prep them for the doctor. Well, in research, I mean, you know this by now, Heather, you spending hours at a time with patients. If it's a screening, if it's a
Absolutely.
randomization, if it's a complicated study, it could be 8 hours. So you
Mm,
get to know these patients really well.
right. Just like our HAE studies, there's the ones that we do with that you talk to these people, sometimes at 3 o'clock in the morning when they're having an
Wow.
outbreak, if that's part of the protocol. So,
Wow.
you go with what your patient needs.
Wow.
You know,
Have you gotten any 3 a.m. calls?
I have not, but my nurse practitioner has.
Ah, whose number is on the 24-hour emergency contact? Because for the first few studies we had, it's mine. I haven't got any calls yet, though.
Well, and I've been very forthcoming with my patients. If you need me, I'm available all hours. I mean, I'm
Wow.
used to being available all hours. So if there's something that comes up that you think I need to know about, feel free to email me, call me, whatever you feel.
Wow.
And that's just to make sure that nothing escapes me. Basically, it might be a little bit of a control freak aspect, but I don't want to find out 2 weeks later that we've had an AE.
No, no, and I'm sure your sponsors are very happy to hear this from you because that's exactly what they want their sites to do. And
Right.
unfortunately, many sites don't do that because the coordinator is overworked. And but from what you said, it sounds like you're in a ideal ideal site because 2 to 3 visits a week is actually not that much. And then 7 studies in maintenance. So you can definitely like your ceiling is like pretty high up there. You can probably fit a visit a day or 2 visits a day, depending on the complexity of the trials, of course.
Absolutely. Yeah, and like I said, most of these are in maintenance right now. So I mean,
Yeah.
we're coming to the end of those closeout visits. I've got one that should close out in November, and another one that should close out in August.
Enjoy the quiet time
Mhm.
because when the studies get going, I mean, 1 to 3 visits a day is the new norm.
Oh, absolutely. I did two in one day a couple weeks ago, and it was like, we're gonna get through this today.
Some it depends on the study because I have these 2 studies that are really difficult and I do not want 2 visits a day. But then you have other protocol where it's like, yeah, I can do like 4 visits today for this study. So just
Yeah,
all protocol dependent.
absolutely. And how time consuming each visit's going to be, and whether you can
Yeah.
give that patient the attention they deserve in the
Uh,
process.
last question. This was amazing with CNA because it gives me more options now for when people ask me for advice. Um, do you guys use eSource or eReg?
Yes, we do.
You do?
Creo.
Okay. Creo. All right. We got Creo. I guess we just started using Creo and figuring out how to do it. I actually have a remote regulatory person. She lives in Missouri. Shout out to Samantha Anderson, CRC Academy intern. She lives in Missouri, but she's interning. She's helping me set up the templates. She helps file the reg doc. So when I get something signed, let's say a financial disclosure form, I just email it to her and then she'll organize it in the e-regulatory. So she's amazing. And because she is remote, we're going to have her start doing data entry as well so that I can just focus on patient visits and then ultimately finding people like you, Heather, and training them to be the coordinators because right now it's just me. And so I'm living the same life you are right now, Heather. I got respect for CRC life. It's not a, it's not an easy task. And the more training you can give to your coworkers, the better it is going to be for you as well. So, sounds like you're in a great place. I probably gotta talk to you more about Creo. You probably have you figured out any like tricks with Creo, like
Well, I know that
hidden things?
the coolest thing you can do with Creo is upload your documents directly into Creo. You don't have to scan them in and then scan them, uh, you know, save them into Creo. You can send them directly to Creo and then go assign them
What? How
as
do you do
needed.
that?
You
What do you mean?
you can email them directly into Creo and then go and assign them by patient study or patient that you're using the eReg for. So, and my nurse practitioner turned me on to that one. She's the better one to talk about with Creo.
Wow.
She's
See,
awesome.
I feel like Creo. Creo has so many cool things because another site told me they have a DOA log that, I mean, we're doing DOA log old fashioned way on paper and then scanning it into Creo. And each time somebody changes something, we rescan it.
Right.
Somebody on YouTube told me you can actually do like use their electronic DOA logs.
We
Uh,
haven't played with that yet.
yeah.
I don't think we're doing it the same way. Signing the new DOA
See,
log and
there's all these little
opening it in.
tricks. There's all these tricks like, and I'm sure if we talk to somebody else about Creo, they're gonna tell us something we don't know about. So we gotta us Creo sites definitely gotta network more with one another just to figure out the tool.
Oh, definitely. I mean, I sign up for every webinar they have because I figure the only thing it's going to do is make me a better coordinator and a better E-reg person when it comes down to it. Because starting today or starting now, I should say, from now on, all of our stuff is going to be E-reg.
Yeah.
So, which saves a few thousand trees every year and gets our binder closet a little slimmer. So,
Absolutely. And especially on the source side. I mean, that's where you really start seeing like, all right, I don't need to print this many papers. Maybe for regulatory, are you guys still using wet ink signatures on everything?
yes, unfortunately,
Yeah,
for the
us
most
too.
part.
Us too. I'm trying to figure that out next. So definitely, Heather, will be networking because this Creo stuff, like eSource, eReg, it's new to everybody. And matter of fact, the sites using eReg, eSource are actually progressive because there's sites that have said they're never switching, and the majority of sites are just prefer paper everything. So it's sites like us that kind of push the industry forward and then show everyone else, well, there's easier ways to do this, guys.
Right,
Just got to figure it out.
and the further we go into this pandemic, or the more we can do online, at a social distance, is going to be better off for everybody involved.
Yeah.
So,
That scanning and emailing, that's something new. So basically the advantage is if you get something emailed to you, you can just forward it to the email address that Creo has,
yep.
and then it'll get filed
Then
for you
you
somewhere.
then your friend in Missouri can go assign it to whatever study you need it for.
Ah, I see. I see.
Yep.
Rather than just me emailing it to her.
Right.
I see. Yeah, that does save time. See, stuff like this cuts
Yeah.
down time. Cuts down time. One of the things I did, I got we have this very complicated study, so I have this binder. See, it's good. I may not like it, but it's good. I'm a coordinator again. We have ophthalmology and some derm assessments for our study. So two separate providers. So we have a source, and those are the unblinded guys. So they don't use Creo; they use paper for their assessments. So rather than going and looking for the source each time a patient comes in, because it's like buried in the actual source, I don't need all those pages, just a few. I just made a binder for things that I'm gonna make copies of repeatedly. And it's just simple things like that gonna save you time as opposed to the day of going to look for those papers, finding which one it is. No, you just grab it from the binder, make copies, boom, just a few seconds as opposed to like maybe 20 minutes.
Absolutely. We say upload a lot of ours directly into a SharePoint, like a OneDrive, and we just go to the protocol, find that source document folder, and print off whatever assessment we need for that day or questionnaire.
Perfect, perfect. Guys, CRC life is what it's all about. If you are a CNA, all right, sites want you. And you may not be
Absolutely.
as fortunate as Heather where someone's reaching out to you, but you can reach out to them. You can reach out to a site in your area. And same if you're an MA. And same if you're somebody considering CNA. Heather just said, absolutely one of the ways to go.
Absolutely.
Well, thank you, Heather. I really appreciate it. Heather from LRV. Everybody go connect on LinkedIn. Her LinkedIn address is right underneath this video. And if you're listening on the podcast, you can find it in the show notes. Heather Nisley, thank you so much. Clinical Research Coordinator, no longer junior. Thank you
No
very
longer
much, Heather.
junior. Thanks, Dan. I appreciate it.
Thank you, everyone, for watching, listening, and we'll catch y'all later. Go connect with Heather. Bye bye.